Good afternoon. Nearly 3 million of Australia's lowest paid workers are about to receive a wage boost, but it may only be short-lived. Our political reporter Jasmine Turlings has the details from Canberra. Jazz, the Fair Work Commission warns workers are still going backwards as inflation pressures bite.
Good afternoon, Anne. Well, the government is celebrating today's announcement as a real wage increase. But with the way inflation is tracking, it could effectively be a wage cut by as early as next month. From July 1, those tied to modern wage rates will receive a 4.75% increase. That's just ahead of the headline inflation, which is currently sitting at 4.2%. But the RBA warns it could climb further. Roughly 100,000 of the lowest paid Australians will receive slightly more in their bank account. In real terms, it means they'll receive just over $1,000 a week, or for those on an entry-level salary, just under $980 a week. Now, the Fair Work Commission says it would not have been practical or responsible to award a real wage increase as the economy faces uncertain circumstances, blaming what it calls the wild card of the conflict in the Middle East and inflation above the RBA target on its decision today. It splits the difference between the 6% argued by unions and the 3.5% proposed by business groups.
Most modern award-aligned employees are still in the position that their wage rates in real terms remain lower than what they were in July 2021.
This is a really good outcome for everyone struggling with cost of living.
For some small businesses, this will be too much to bear.
Now, while the opposition supports a real wage increase, it says it's going to push more Australians into a higher tax bracket.
And of course, that means that their wage rise gets eaten up not just by inflation, but also by increased taxes as well.
We think this decision strikes a very effective balance. This is the sustainable real wages increase that we called for.
Now, of those tied to a minimum wage rate, more than 60% are female and more than half are casual workers. Anne.
Jasmine Turlings in Canberra. Thanks a lot, Jazz. A teenage learner driver has led police on a chase through the city's southwest. It came to a crashing end in Bardia when the car smashed into the front of a family home. Brianna Jackson reports.
Good afternoon. The Bardia family got an awful shock last night when the Audi came screeching from across the road and straight into the front of their home. It was 9:20 p.m. on Williamson Road in Ingleburn when the car allegedly refused to stop for police and a pursuit began. The grey Audi was chased down Brooks Road before turning onto McDonald Road in Bardia when it crossed onto the wrong side of the road and went flying into the front yard of the home, causing an awful lot of damage.
Because I thought my dad's room got crashed and I felt the whole house shake.
Suddenly I got a big bump noise. I couldn't figure out what happened and just came outside and saw everything is smashed.
Police weren't far behind and were quick to arrest the teenage boy that was a learner driver. He was taken to Campbelltown Police Station and charged over the pursuit and failing to display L plates. In the meantime, his licence has been suspended. We'll have the full details for you at 6 p.m.
Two drivers, including a P-plater, were lucky to walk away from the scene of a crash in Sydney's west last night. The black and white Toyota Corollas were crossing at the intersection of St Heliers and Rawson Road in Auburn around 10:30 when they collided. There were no injuries. There are potentially new delays in the war crimes case against Ben Roberts-Smith. Prosecutors have revealed some pieces of evidence against the former soldier will need national security checks. That will delay the brief until September. Roberts-Smith is fighting war crimes murder charges linked to his time in Afghanistan. A teenager is facing violent extremism charges after police uncovered an alleged terror plot on a Queensland school. Police say the plans were only discovered after the boy was arrested over a service station robbery. Liam Bland reports.
Police were called to a Maryborough service station late last week to report a teen wearing a balaclava was armed with a large kitchen knife. It's alleged he tried to steal a car and when interviewed by officers told them he'd wanted to kill people for months. He was arrested, then released with a caution. 2 days later though, detectives from the counter-terrorism squad raided his home. They say they found violent extremist material on his devices. The 13-year-old was again taken into custody. Detectives allege they found evidence he'd been plotting an attack on a local school, understood to be Albert State Primary. It's only a few kilometres from that service station where he was first arrested.
Those that are closest to him, whether that be family, friends or teachers, will have picked up some sort of anomaly with this child. It's then about how do we read those signs, how do we capture those signs, and more importantly, how do we get those signs reported in.
As a government, we need to be agile. We need to respond to changing threat levels and methodologies and give the police the resources they need to keep people safe.
The allegations of an attack on the school has worried local parents. Here's what some had to say this morning.
It could have escalated to the point where it could have hurt lots of people.
This day and age, you never know what kids are thinking of or capable of.
It all comes down to the parents as well. How much are they actually watching their kids doing?
The boy's application for bail was yesterday refused in the Hervey Bay Children's Court. He'll return to court on Friday.
Peter Garrett has returned to federal parliament to lead an inquiry into the AUKUS deal. The ex-Labor minister and Midnight Oil frontman is launching a crowd-funded probe into the nuclear submarine pact. It includes scrutiny over where and how nuclear waste will be stored.
The irony is that we are launching a public inquiry in Parliament House where there has been no substantive debate about AUKUS at all.
The investigation into the $368 billion pact will take written submissions and hold public hearings. A final report is due on October 30. Negotiations to end the war in the Middle East have been dealt a fresh blow. Iran has reportedly cut contact with the US in response to Israel's expanding military offensive in Lebanon. Here's our US correspondent Rob Scott.
Iranian state media is reporting that the regime in Tehran is hitting pause on the peace negotiations with the United States in protest to Israel's actions in Lebanon. Tehran says a condition of the current ceasefire was that the fighting would stop on all fronts, but Israel continues to attack Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman accusing Israel of trying to sabotage the negotiations, as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today ordered more strikes, instructing his troops to hit what he calls Hezbollah's terrorist headquarters in Beirut. Attempting to rescue the situation, Donald Trump called Netanyahu, posting online afterwards, "There will be no troops going to Beirut, and any troops that are on their way have already been turned back." He says he also had a very good call with Hezbollah, and they agreed that all shooting will stop, that Israel will not attack them, and they will not attack Israel. Now, while Netanyahu has called off the strikes today, he says he told Trump if Hezbollah does not cease attacking our cities and citizens, Israel will attack terror targets in Beirut.